by his contemporaries as the good for his frugal lifestyle, Phocion lived in Athens at a time when the health of the city was in decline. In his youth, he studied under the philosopher Plato before entering military service under the general Chabrias. In 376 BC, he led the Athenians to a decisive victory at the naval battle of Naxos. Later, Phocion entered politics and received a high position due to his commanding style of oratory. However, his constant rejection of populist policies made him despised by the political elite, among whom was the orator Demosthenes. Regardless, Phocion never held animosity toward his fellow citizens. According to Plutarch, much of his time was spent overseeing the balance of power between Greece and the kingdom of Macedon. In 349, Philip II invaded Euboea, prompting the Athenians to send Phocion to recover the island and halt his advance. Years later, Philip attempted to capture Greek colonies in the east, before Phocion was sent again to check his ambitions. After Philip's death in 336, several Greek cities revolted against Macedon, prompting the new king Alexander to destroy the city of Thebes. After careful negotiations, Phocion managed to spare Athens from annihilation and was even entrusted by Alexander with affairs in Greece while he was away. But after his death in 323, the Athenians again rebelled against Macedon for their freedom. The Macedonians, led by Antipater, defeated the Greeks in the Hellenic War and established a garrison over Athens while exiling thousands of impoverished citizens. As a result, Phocion became the de facto ruler of Athens and worked to maintain a peaceful relation with Macedon. Upon Antipater's death in 319, his general took command of Greece and promised to restore the exiles to Athens. But this was a ruse to get the city under his control and remove Phocion's influence. In time, the Athenians rejected Phocion and removed him from the office of general before arresting him and having him tried as a traitor. After receiving a guilty verdict, he and several companions were taken to prison and given hemlock to drink as their final punishment. Thus, Phocion died in 318 BC, having led the Athenians as general no less than 45 years. With his death, the fires of freedom fizzled out in Athens. As the wars of the Diadochi continued, the Macedonian general Cassander would rule over the Greek cities for the next 20 years. Never again would Greece stand as its own power in the ancient world. And now we shall turn our attention to his Roman counterpart. As the state of affairs in Rome were becoming increasingly violent, Marcus Porcius Cato arose as a man who stood against the impulsive nature of his fellow statesmen. Being the great-grandson of Cato the Censor, he adhered to rigorous discipline in order to make himself a prominent figure in the Roman Senate. Much of this was the result of his following of the Stoic philosophy. Early in his life, Cato entered the priesthood, charged with maintaining the Sibylline oracles. In 72 BC, he served in the Servile War against the gladiator Spartacus, where his honorable conduct helped him to win his election to military tribune in 67. After serving as tribune in Macedonia, Cato returned to Rome and obtained the office of quaestor in 65. His management of affairs as quaestor gave the treasury a renewed sense of respectability that even impressed the Senate. Near the end of 63, Cato successfully ran for the office of plebeian tribune before getting involved in the Catiline conspiracy. Here he advocated for the execution of the conspirators in opposition to Julius Caesar, who advocated for imprisonment and a fair trial first. The following year, the tribune Metellus Nepos proposed a bill to recall Pompeius Magnus from Asia to protect Rome from any more usurpations. According to Plutarch, Cato opposed this legislation vehemently because he perceived the true nature of the bill, and his success in this matter elevated his standing in Rome. After these events, Caesar and Pompeius formed a political alliance which propelled Caesar to the consulship in 59. Here he proposed a distribution of land to Roman citizens and called for the punishment of any who opposed the measure. Despite Cato's opposition to the proposal, he was at length persuaded to relent to the consul's wishes for his own safety. In 58 BC, he was sent to the island of Cyprus by the tribune Clodius Pulcher with orders to establish the island as a province of Rome. This was originally a plot to keep Cato out of the city so he would not interfere with popular policies. However, his honest and just administration of Cyprus gained him the support of the Senate, but even this would not be enough to halt the eventual clash of wills between the Senate and the Triumvirate. Sensing the consolidation of power among the Triumvirate, Cato resolved to check their ambitions by becoming praetor in 54 BC. Much of his time was spent trying to remove the use of bribery in magistrate elections. But in a surprise turn of events, Cato supported the election of Pompeius to a sole consulship in 52. This new alliance between the two men became a warning to Caesar, whose connection to Pompeius was already near the breaking point. With tensions growing among the political elite, proposals were made to have both men lay down their provincial commands to avoid another civil war. In response to this, Caesar acted first by crossing the Rubicon River and forcing Pompeius and Cato to flee from Rome. Over a year later, in August 48 BC, Caesar defeated Pompeius at the Battle of Pharsalus, forcing the remnants of his forces to retire to Roman Africa. Upon reaching the province of Libya, Cato formed an alliance with King Juba, placing the proconsul Metellus Scipio in control of the army. As he had with Pompeius, Cato tried to persuade Scipio to maintain a war of attrition against Caesar, but Scipio insisted on a decisive battle and was soundly defeated at the Battle of Thapsus in 46 BC. With fear of Caesar's wrath gripping the city of Utica, Cato attempted to gain over the Roman senators with wisdom and courage. But his call for sound judgment in the decision to resist or surrender to Caesar fell on fickle hearts. In the final weeks of his life, Cato prepared the people of Utica for the arrival of Caesar, while simultaneously evacuating his friends from the potential danger. According to Plutarch, he had quietly resolved to end his own life, but wanted to make sure that everyone around him was cared for. On his last day, he entertained his friends with philosophical topics at dinner before retiring to his room to read Phaedon, a dialogue by Plato. Finally, after being assured the last of his friends had sailed away to safety, Cato took his own life with a sword strike to the chest. Upon his death, Caesar lamented that he had not the chance to pardon Cato for his actions. Having lived as a free man who was his own master, Cato was spared what became about in Rome, a final civil war that accelerated its transformation into an empire.